Hello, my fans, old, new, potential, anyone? Well, Blue Dragon Studios here. Looks like under certain circumstances, I'm able to do my new recording today. So, without further ado, enjoy the show. Tails and Scales, The Empty Throne, Chapter 11, The Journey Begins. The militia marches back to Elantra, escorting the rebels all chained up while the leader is still frozen on a wooden cart. The Omega folk rush out of their wooden homes to rejoice at the sight of the militia parading with the bandits in bonds. Members of the militia are showered in cheer, while the bandits are showered with disgust due to the crimes they committed. Some Omega folk even throw spoiled fish at the bandits in anger. Silvus looks around with a smile, mounted back on his Naguana alongside Tritus, Orzim, and Davius at the front of the parade, very proud of himself that he took part of a campaign instead of being stuck inside a castle. He admits that it feels good to be outside once in a while, as his cousin Iko always pesters him to do. For now, he rides along the group to enter the castle district straight ahead. The following night, residents of different castes celebrate in their respected districts, while the Omega Raptors celebrate in joy within the wooden streets of the commons and market districts. The Delta Raptors celebrate in the Golden Lagoon and the castle districts. The Omegas set up small gatherings with family inside households or taverns. The Deltas throw fancy parties with larger families and groups of friends inside their manors or estates. One thing that both Omegas and Deltas share is a sense of pride with their betadom and nation, as both castes raise purple and black flags high. The same can be said for the Vessel and Sidon clans, who are hosting their own private party inside the castle, built by the sea. Inside the castle grand dining hall, all the nearby nobility of the betadom are invited to celebrate. Iko is seen flirting with females and making new friends. Orzim chats with the grown-ups, and Solfi stands by with Tritus, who sits at the dining table with his associated Delta lords and court members. As for Silvus, instead of mingling in the party, he sits at a table alone in the private library reading a book, not for the purpose of being entertained away from the party, but for information. He seems to be reading about the history of Second Avalonia, or the Dark Age. Flipping through the pages, Silvus spots the picture that he has been looking for, the purple skull that he saw on both the bandit leader's badge and also the flags the rebels hung. Placing a talent on the text, he reads, the flag of Second Avalonia. This symbol was carved by Necros in order to symbolize his power with dark mistcraft. It is said he chooses the skull due to the connection with the undead Dark Mist has control over. Silvus gets into thought, trying to figure out what he read. He gets off his wooden seat and paces around the table, brainstorming some questions. Why would mere rebels use such an evil symbol to represent them? Do they know about it? And who were the figures the bandit leader was talking to? He even questions if they are somehow connected to the state of the kingdom. He stops in his tracks to hear knocking sounds to his left, making him turn to face the wooden doors. Hey, Silvus, are you in there? If so, why aren't you with us at the party? This is Iko, who seems to be looking for Silvus. Just a sec. He decides to put the book away on his shelf, so he will not have to make his family worried. He rushes through the doors, opening them to see Iko with some Delta caste buddies between him. Silvus can tell due to the fancy scarves they wear. He even sees one of them holding a goblet in a fancy manner. Dude, even at a party, you still like to glue your face in books, Iko laughs, along with his buddies, earning an eye roll from Silvus. What exactly are you reading about? One of Iko's new buddies asks like a cliché snob, taking a sip of his wheat vine wine. Let's just say I'm trying to Silvus slowly thinks, how is he going to explain without mentioning the badge he saw on the bandit leader? He assumes they might not be interested. They look the type of noble who will be too impressed with themselves to even care. Iko and the new buddies all look at him, waiting for what he has to say. Figure out some history stuff related to that bandit guy I fought. Silvus snaps his talons. Wait a minute, are you Silvus? The guy who saved our beta lord by freezing that weirdo's tail? One of the buddies perks up, looking excited, making his tail slowly wag side to side. That's right, guys. Iko rushes up beside Silvus to pat him on the back really hard with a cheeky smile. This male of the hour is also my cousin. Silvus flinches a bit from the pain felt. He has developed a bruise due to his hard fall after being knocked off his mount. The two noble juvenile males look at him like fanboys who are meeting a hero of legend. Dude, no way! Our beta's been telling us how you fought the big guy by yourself. Really? Silvus turns to his younger cousin, looking surprised at the sudden outburst by the two young deltas. Why don't you come with us and find out? Join the party, dude! Iko gently pushes Silvus down the hall, with his buddies to guide him back to the dining room, where the party is taking place. Dragged into the dining room, Silvus can see all the party guests having a good time, dancing around as if they're an Omega-owned tavern. The nobility in Tricia are not like your average noble. Being a seaside subculture, it is hard to believe they are of a higher class caste at all. Maybe it is due to him being with Magalo nobles most of his life, who are mostly intellectual miscaster. Speaking of miscasters, Silvus notices a Trician miscaster or two who come from the Tricia chapter of monastery mingling with the crowd. Silvus then hears a band begin to play accordion music to his right. The tone makes all the guests rush into the middle of the room to start square dancing around and singing like a bunch of drunken sailors. Silvus cannot help but make a small laugh at the sight. Iko seems to notice, making a smirk, thinking up an idea what Silvus should do. He takes Silvus to stay where he is, and he and his pals walk up to a trio of 4 pretty females, talking to each other. Iko calls into his talon, gaining their attention.
What can we do for you, handsome lads?
One of the females asks with a flirtatious voice and look on her face. I was wondering if you young ladies could do us a favor. Iko points to where Silvus is standing. The females seem to think Silvus is very attractive due to the way they gasp. Silvus watches his cousin and his friends talk to some females. Seeing his cousin point at him, making the females gasp at the sight of him, makes his cheeks flush. By the spirits, Iko, what are you doing? Silvus thinks to himself, looking at the group very suspiciously. The females all rush up to him with fangirl smiles, as if he is some kind of celebrity.
Oh my gosh, you must be that silver male who fought alongside our beta. He's so handsome. Is he mateless?
The crazy females make Silvus want to sit back. Tritus must have told his raptors a bit too much about his involvement. I'm guessing Tritus told you much about me? Silvus looks to his cousin with an annoyed glare. He only mouths, have fun, in return with a smirk. Suddenly, he feels his talon get grabbed by the 4th and the most attractive female, making Silvus' cheeks heat up even more.
You look very swell for a miscaster. What about we dance together, shall we?
The female drags Silvus right into the crowd of dancing guests, earning him stares. Silvus does not know what to do. He looks around the wall of dancing guests, trying to find a way out. Sadly, he cannot find one, due to how crowded the room is. He looks at the female who dragged him, starting to sway her hips and tail, looking at him with a flirty smile, trying to get him to dance. Silvus closes his eyes, trying to fight off his nervousness. Never before has he danced with a female. Out of nowhere, In his mind, the nervous male starts to think about one particular female. The female Silvus thinks about is the one he met back home before the invasion. He does not know why, but thinking about himself dancing with the orca-colored female eases his nervousness. Yet, still he feels his heart pounding while he slowly looks at the female still dancing. Taking a deep breath, Silvus studies the guest's dancing pattern and begins to shake his upper body, followed by a bit of tapping with his big feet, just like the others. From the dining table, Sophie takes notice of her cousin dancing alongside a random female with the crowd. She turns to her left to see Tritus, her husband, having a bit of a jolly time, talking with his court members, her father, who just joined them, and the Delta Lords. She taps her husband's shoulder to get his attention. "What is it, my dear?" he asks. Sophie points for him to look and sees Silvus dancing with the crowd, having fun, making him laugh with his jolly sailor tone. Orzim, however, is surprised to see his bookworm nephew dancing with a female who looks way out of his league. Or that is what he thought. Back on the dance floor, Silvus and the female begin to lock up talons to start performing the duet-style dance. The dancers take notice with smiles on their faces. Iko and his buddies begin to cheer for Silvus, only for them to be snagged by the remaining females onto the dance floor. Silvus and the female continue to tango, making the crowd clap their talons at the same time tap their feet without knowing that Silvus is really fantasizing about another female. The two make one big spin, followed by a finisher pose, making the crowd go wild.
"You dance so swell. Maybe we should hang out one of these days,"
the female suggests, but Silvus snaps back to reality. Despite her appearance, he is not interested in her. But not wanting to hurt her feelings, he plainly tells her that he will consider it and parts ways, still earning him a wink from the female. Silvus makes his way through the cheering crowd, reaching the dining table where his family and nobles are seated. They are all looking at him with proud looks, especially Tritus. You just became the talk of this night." Tritus playfully pats Silvus on the back, making him wince in pain from the bruise.
"I did not know you were so good at dancing, cousin,"
Sophie adds. The other nobles begin to butt in, hoping to get a chance to know him. One Delta offers him a blessing to marry one of his daughters. Another Delta, a female, asks if he's mateless, so she can look him up, regardless of whether he is an Omega or not. Poor Silvus feels a bit overwhelmed by the constant offers and praise by the Deltas. He just sits in his seat, exhausted right in front of them. Orzim can't help but smile for his nephew, socializing with the nobles. It reminds him of his younger days. One night, Silvus tries to sleep. Despite all the sudden fame, he cannot get his mind off his mother. He is getting a bit of a nightmare of himself in the middle of an unknown dungeon. The dream felt so real. He questions if it's a dream at all. Silvus turns around to see his mother trapped inside one of the cells of the hall. He rushes right in front of it, only to run through like a ghost. He takes one glance back to make sure the bars are there, and back to see his mother chained up. Despite being chained up, Silvira, his mother, still has her cloak on, but it is dirty. Silvus tries to call out to her, but she cannot hear him. Then he hears the cell door open, making him turn his head to see a hooded figure walk right at him with a black cane. With another gaze, he sees the same badge he came across back in the camp. The figure walks right past him, facing his mother. The figure kneels to her eye level and asks her, "Where is the boy?" with a tone of an old male, as he lifts his mother's head by the chain with his claw. Silvira puts on a defiant face, giving him a threatening hiss with her fangs being shown. In response, the figure jabs his claw on top of her head. The claw suddenly glows red, making Silvira scream with agony. "Mother!" Silvus shouts as he tries to make a jump, only to be met by a flash waking him up back in reality. Silvus lifts himself up on his bed, making hard breaths with fear in his eyes. He looks around to see that he is still in the guest room of Tritus's castle. He looks to his left to see sunlight coming out of the window, telling him that the sun has risen. He decides to walk out of his bedroom, hoping to have a brief walk out of the castle. He plans to until he sees his uncle and Tritus standing inside the throne room, waiting. The two spot the young Silvus with smiles. "Ah, Silvus, come here!" Tritus waves his claw for Silvus to join them. With a sigh, he walks to them with a tired face. Orzine takes no notice. "Is something wrong, Silvus?" he asks. Silvus makes a big yawn and tells him that he had a bit of a nightmare last night about his mother being tortured by some hooded figure. Orzine and Tritus exchange a quick look and try to cheer him up until a guard bursts through the door. "My lord, the Manchester forces are advancing!" The guard screams with a salute. "What? How did you know?" Tritus demands. The guard tells him that he was scouting around the border, only to see the Manchester army coming through in full force. The news is so grim that Orzine turns around to walk up to the coral throne in front of the wellspring. Both Silvus and Tritus notice Orzine's sudden change in behavior. Silvus walks up to Orzine to see that he is in a trance, best described as shock. "Spirits have mercy. I thought we had more time." Silvus hears his uncle mumble a prayer, kneeling at the same time. His uncle is devastated. "Uncle, are you okay?" Silvus asks him with a worried tone. His uncle responds by standing back up, still looking at the wellspring. "Do you still have it?" Orzine asks Silvus without taking his eyes off the wellspring. "Still have what?" The package your mother gave you," Orzine snaps now, facing the startled Silvus. Now knowing what his uncle's talking about, Silvus tells him that he hid the package under the guest bed. Looking grim, Orzine tells Silvus to do what he has wanted to do the whole time. "Go to Padalot. If your mother really believes that the Missatorium could help, then I trust her," Orzine instructs his nephew in a tone of desperate pleading. Silvus notices the sudden change of mind of his uncle and asks, "What changed your mind, uncle?" Orzine turns around, his gaze back at the wellspring, with his talons behind his back. He takes a deep breath to explain. "To be truthful, Silvus, the real reason I wanted us to stay is not just for helping family, but I hope to talk to your friend about requesting an army to take back Magalo." Orzine turns his head to face Silvus with a smile. "Seeing how you perform in battle, it is safe for me to assume that you can handle yourself. But promise me this." He walks up to his nephew and places his talons on his shoulders. "Promise me you stay alive." He pulls his nephew into a tight hug. "Do you remember me telling you that you are like another son to me?" Silvus tells Orzine, "Yes." Orzine breaks off the hug and explains that he meant it. There was a reason that his mother picked his uncle to be her steward. It has always been obvious to Silvus that his mother and uncle are very close siblings. Silvus starts to feel a tear come out of his eye due to feeling his heart touched by his uncle's words. "What about you?" I have to stay behind with my own family. Of course. Who else is going to watch over that younger cousin of yours?" Orzine gives Silvus a nudge on the shoulder. Both the nephew and uncle share a laugh until they hear Tritus clear his throat, getting their attention. He has been standing around listening to them right next to the scout. Sorry to break your touching family moment, but I believe we have an upcoming war to prepare for." With that, Orzine gives the word, and Silvus runs to his guest chamber to put on the armor and poncho set. He straps the package onto his back. He runs to the main doors, only to be briefly stopped by Orzine once again. There are two more things he wanted to give his nephew before he goes off. The first one is the steel sword for protection. As for the other, Orzine tells Silvus to follow him to the same training room where he sparred with Tritus. This time, however, it is empty. First, Orzine tells Silvus to put the package down for a moment. Silvus complies, still wondering what his uncle wants to give him. What I am about to teach you, young Silvus, is a spell that is meant only for the Knights of the Mist. You mean? Yes, nephew. In these troubling times, I am going to teach you the weapon mist spell. For when you ever find yourself losing your weapon, first raise your claw in front of you. Orzine raises his claw, and Silvus follows suit. Think about the weapon you are best at, then use your mind to call the mist to form the weapon. Silvus does what his uncle tells him. He clears his mind and thinks about a single taloned sword. Next, the young, eager mist caster mentally taps into the mist stored within himself, making his claw glow the same purple color. A sword begins to form aura into his claw in a matter of seconds. It is a slow process, yet Silvus feels himself grow tired as he performs his spell. The exhaustion that Silvus is feeling mentally is the sign of mist energy stored in his body, almost depleted. He tries to keep his mind focused, but the spell is so advanced, the aura sometimes halts its progress. His uncle in front begins to grow worried. Silvus suddenly grabs the aura and forms into the perfect sword onto his claw, earning a gasp from his uncle. Silvus proudly looks at his misty sword with so much excitement. He makes a few practice swings to test it out. Orzine, on the other hand, is surprised that his nephew just mastered the spell very quickly. That is until the mist sword just vanishes out of nowhere, making Silvus a bit dizzy. The mist weapon is not supposed to vanish that quickly. Seeing Silvus on the ground, Orzine helps him back up on his feet and asks him, "How did you manage to form the weapon that quick?" "The Mystatorium told me that I have some unique, unnatural gift to learn mistcraft very quickly. Well, it seems I still have to learn how to actually keep this spell active. And by the spirits, my body's going to need a recharge." Silvus laughs it off as the mist that dwells in the atmosphere begins to merge into his body. Hearing Silvus laughing it off, Orzine wants to ask him another question about his so-called gift. But he does not have time, so all he can do is get Silvus on his journey to Padalot. Around the outskirts of Atlantra, Silvus begins to ride his Snaguana on the muddy road for Padalot. He stops to take one more glance at the wooden city of Atlantra and makes a mental prayer for his uncle, best friend, and cousins to be safe from the upcoming battle. He turns around to enter the swamp forest until he hears a voice call out to him, "Silvus, wait up!" Silvus turns his head back to see Eiko wearing chain armor with a bow and arrows, riding on a red Snaguana toward him. Silvus is a bit shocked to see his cousin run up to him at an awkward time. "Eiko, what are you doing here? Why aren't you with Uncle Orzine and Sulfi? Dad being a Knight of the Mist, you being a hero? I thought maybe if I join up with you, I could get a chance to meet the Knights. Better yet, join them." Eiko beams at the idea, earning an awkward look from Silvus. "In a time like this, you want to join the Knights? Remember when you told me you wanted to be a mistcaster to be a good Beta Lord?" Silvus nods in reply, remembering what they spoke about back home. "So I thought if I become a knight, maybe I could learn to grow up, to be the adult my dad wants me to be. More importantly, I could learn new skills to help raptors in the kingdom." Eiko makes a good point. Without further ado, Silvus decides to let Eiko come with him on the journey to Padalot. The two cousins ride into the swamp, staying on the road by the mist stream in order to reach the capital. What the two cousins do not know is that a group of 5 figures in black robes and armor follow close behind them with their black Snaguanas. While the two cousins ride along, Eiko bombards Silvus with various questions. The common questions is about the knights. For example, Iko asks him if he might be able to see the knights when they get to the capital. Silvus only tells him that it may be possible since they are the Mystatorium's private enforcers. It makes Iko feel giddy as he squeals like a fanboy. You know, cousin, if I'm able to join, you think I could learn that spell my dad fought bandits with? Iko asks, remembering the spell his father used to fight bandits. Silvus is about to answer until he hears a pair of footsteps behind him, making him look back. Iko looks back too, wondering what is going on. The two cousins gasp at the sight of 5 shady Snaguana riders running at them. The riders are so fast, they run past the cousins to block their path by making a line wall. Are you Vessel Silvus? The head rider walks up, speaking with a dark, mysterious tone, freaking out Iko. The Snaguana, used by the cousins, make threatening hissing sounds, knowing they are trouble. Silvus takes a closer look at the riders. Aside from the black robes and armor, he sees that they have the same badges he saw on the bandit leader. How do those guys know who you are? They're freaking me out, Iko whispers to Silvus. Iko, listen, I have a feeling those guys are up to no good. So when I shout run, we must run for it until we lose them, Silvus whispers back and makes a few steps forward. Silvus studies the figures further. He cannot tell what they look like under those hoods, due to the masks they wear. Who are you, raptors? How do you know my name? And why in the spirit's name do you want me? Silvus demands with a hiss, not trusting them. The riders respond by drawing their black steel swords. The leader points his or her sword at Silvus and responds, You are coming with us by demand of Enbar Targan, future Alpha King of Avalonia. It is obvious to Silvus that the riders do not really work for Targan. If he remembers, Manchester soldiers do not wear black robes, nor do they wear the unknown badge. The two parties are silent. Tension fills the air. Bugs nearby make chirping sounds, and some nearby dinosaurs in the wild make moaning sounds. Silvus turns his head around to see Iko starting to sweat, scared of what they are about to do. Looking back at the riders, he draws his sword, twirls it around, and jabs it into the ground to create a wall of ice, causing the riders to step back with their mounts. Move! Silvus shouts to Iko, causing the two cousins to gallop off-road into the wild swamp. Don't let them get away, the lead rider commands, throwing a dark fireball spell, the corrupted version of the fireball, with a free claw to shatter the wall of ice, allowing the riders to make chase. Silvus and Iko gallop their mounts as fast as they can, while the riders continue to pursue them. Silvus looks around through the vines and branches, hoping to spot a place to hide. Suddenly, he spots a giant rock in the middle. To distract the riders, he uses a sword to perform a lightning spell behind him at a nearby tree. The zapped large tree falls down, blocking the riders' path out of sight. With the riders blocked, Silvus and Iko take advantage to gallop around the giant rock, ignoring a strange banner with a triceratops-like head as a symbol. Eventually, the cousins spot a big opening to a cave, allowing them to enter. In the middle of the cave, the cousins stop their advance to turn around to see that the riders are not chasing them anymore. Dude, you think they're still out there? Iko asks Silvus with a worried tone. Silvus wishes he could answer, but he can only guess that they might still be searching for them. We should make camp for the... Silvus feels his neck get pinched, then feels himself get so dizzy he falls off his Snaguana, who looks at her rider, very worried. Iko gasps at the sight of Silvus falling down at cold. Silva! Iko gets hit too as he too falls down, out cold, into a weird sleep. The two cousins lie on the ground, inside the cave, out cold. A pair of feet is heard, approaching them. It is a group of at least 5 mini two-legged lizards wearing Oriental-style armor. They are reptilian due to the scales on their feet and little tails. Unlike raptors, they have no feathers. Turns out they blew sleep darts, as one of them still hold a blowpipe in its claws. The biggest one, the leader of the squad, checks out the sleeping raptors, who are much taller than them. The leader looks to his squad and tells them, "Get a cart ready. We better notify the king that we have some trespassers in our midst." The 5 riders who were chasing them stop by the entrance of the said cave outside waiting. One of the riders leans toward the leader and asks, "Shall we go after them?" "No, we have hidden agents in there who might be able to take care of them. Just in case, we will make camp and keep an eye in case they come back out," the leader answers with a sinister tone. End of chapter 11.